You were flying an RV?
I've got an RV-4 that its claim to fame is that we've flown it to 47,500 feet.
This is just a little two-seat lowing...
Actually a single place. We took a two-seat kit and made a single place airplane out of it.
Right.
You would normally fly the RV-4 from the front seat and it would have 180 horsepower. We put a 380 horsepower engine on it and I sit in the back seat, built the airplane there so
That's right.
the weight and balance would work out.
Yeah.
But on one of our more interesting flights was out over the Gulf of Mexico. I was climbing through about 41,000 feet when the engine started surging really badly. The engine would quit and then roar back to life and quit, roar back. The governor started losing control of the RPM as it was slamming the power, and the oil temperature was quite hot and the governor wasn't working correctly. So for fear of blowing the engine up, I went ahead and pulled the throttle back, knowing that when the engine quit I was way above the critical altitude of the turbo. It wouldn't run again.
Yes.
So I called Center and I told them I'd had an engine problem.
This is Houston Center.
Houston Center.
Houston, we have a problem?
It wasn't a major problem. They asked me, do you want to declare an emergency? I said no, because once I get back below 30,000 feet, the engine will run just fine. And so I'm gliding back. I was about 60 miles offshore when that happened, and I'm gliding back toward here. And they gave me preferential handling and asked me again at about 35,000 feet, did I want to declare an emergency? I said, no, just let me get it below 30,000, I'll get it running again. Because I don't know why all of this happened.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I got down below 30,000 feet, and the engine will not start. It won't even fire. It's freewheeling, it's spinning, but it will not start. And at about 27,000 feet, Center calls me back and says, we're declaring emergency for you, so that we need to be priority handling all the way down, and whatever.
Oh, whatever.
Because it's not a big deal. I mean, I've got Brazoria County made easily. As a matter of fact, I got to Brazoria County Airport at about 16,000 feet. Canceled my flight plan, told Center, we have a Cub flyby here. I told Center I wanted to leave the frequency and talk to the people at Brazoria County, and I called down to a friend of mine named Tim there. Tim got on the radio and cleared everybody off the airport, got a sterile environment for me, and by that time I was about 8,000 or 9,000 feet, and once he said I had the airport, I just dove it down real fast, still trying to start the engine all the way down. I can't figure out why it won't run. So I landed, and I landed fast enough, got over the edge of the runway, made a turn off, so I taxied, got clear of the runway, didn't want to plug anything up. And I'm sitting in the airplane just pondering why in the world this thing
don't tell me, you tried it again.
Well, no, I didn't.
No.
There wasn't any point in trying at that point because I just had 30 minutes to try to crank it up and it wouldn't start. So, a guy walks by the airplane, a friend of mine, and he says, well, I see you screwed this flight up too. I said, yeah. He says, what happened to the paint on your leading edge? I said, well, I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. He says, yeah, you're missing some paint up here. So I got out of the airplane, and I'm walking around looking at it, and the fuel tank is flatter than the funny papers. I mean, it looks like a duck's instep. It has sucked completely flat. What happened was I was spraying water in the oil coolers to help keep the engine cool during the climb, and I had left the switch on and let the oil get too cold. The water quit evaporating when it was going through the cooler. It started accumulating in the cowling, falling to the bottom of the cowling, running out of the cowling, right into my fuel vents. Both fuel vents full of ice. My mistake was that when the engine started surging, I had switched fuel tanks and started hitting pumps and doing everything I could to make it run again. Well, I blocked that tank off at 41,500 feet and then took it back to sea level. It crushed that fuel. And of course, the other fuel
that would have happened to you if you'd kept your mouth shut too, all the way down as well, I suppose.
Well, had I known what was going on, I would have just kept the fuel selector going back and forth to keep balancing it.
Yeah.
And because it was clearing through the carburetor. The other tank that I'd selected didn't crush because it was actually able to burp back through the carburetor.
Yes, but what was the cause of the engine failure?
The fact that the vent filled up with ice, and I pulled a vacuum on the left fuel tank, which I'd been climbing on the entire time. It was almost out of fuel, so it was full of air. And when I switched to the right tank, when the engine first quit, it was able to vent through the carburetor. The other one had no place to vent because the vent was sealed.
It was sealed with ice.
The engine, that's why it was surging in the first place, because it was trying to draw fuel in a vacuum. Well, I've got the tank in there. We blew it back up with an air bottle here, took some Pro-Seal, Pro-Sealed up a bunch of the holes in it, And I flew it to Philadelphia for the AOPA convention about a week later. And a few months later, we built a new fuel tank for it.
Well, that's an incredible story. Well, I wonder if I could get up to 40,000 feet in a Cub.
Absolutely. If you put enough power on it, it will go.
Will it? All right. Okay. Well, there's always a first time.